Hello, my name is Precious Vines Harris, and I am the Single Maven. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today, I'm going to finish reviewing The Later Daters. I promised to get it to you, and I'm getting it to you now. I'm going to review the last episode, which is episode 8. Looking at my notes, it is entitled One Little Aha Moment. So I have thoroughly enjoyed reviewing The Later Daters. If you have not looked at my reviews, I encourage you to do so. Definitely comment. Let me know what you think about these episodes. It has been 8 episodes so far, and I have enjoyed it. I have learned a lot, and I have been able to share some of these things that will help you if you are a single lady dating and you're trying to figure out how to find your person. This series does take you down the journey of dating through the eyes of about 6 to 7 individuals, and it's thoroughly enjoyable. All right, so we're going to look at episode 8. Looking at my notes, this episode starts off with a review of each of the later daters, as this is their last episode, right? So we find that Felton and Lori finally meet up. Lori has been trying to meet up with Felton for a while. We've talked about Felton and how Felton is not really feeling Lori, but Lori has been chasing Felton. So they finally go on this date. And this is going to be an eye-opening experience for Lori. Lori starts out the date with Felton by giving the hard-hitting questions to figure out how he feels about her. Felton kind of starts off a little bit evasive in his response. I think that, number one, Lori provides too much information. I do have that in my notes as it relates to how she feels. And number two, there are some areas that are keeping her stuck, right? She has blockers up. He pretty much tells her that. He tells her that there are some areas that are keeping her stuck. She has blockers up, and he prefers just to be friends. And you all know how I feel about that. I have done a video. If you've not looked at it, I have an old video, and I have one that I've done probably a couple of months ago as it relates to being just friends. I don't necessarily co-sign on that. And I think that him telling her that does actually give her that eye opener that she needs, because she was chasing him and he wasn't necessarily responding. And I think hearing it straight from the horse's mouth lets her know that Felton is not interested. Okay. So I think if she was looking for a future relationship with him, she's now able to close that door. And I don't think that's a bad thing. Ladies, I think the sooner you can get to the truth, the harder the matter as far as how a gentleman may feel about you that you're dating, the better. Okay. You don't want to waste your time. So she says that she is only going to be single for a limited time. And if that's true, to be honest with you, Lori has a lot of work to do. She has a lot of work to do. I wouldn't hold on to that friendship with Felton, because I think that may hinder her. I feel like if you have feelings for someone and they're not reciprocated, you really just have to kind of break it off. I don't think it would behoove her to continue to be in the friend zone, because in the beginning of the of the series, you all remember that was her thing. She could not figure out why she was always in the friend zone. So I feel like if you find out you're in the friend zone, stop putting yourself in that situation. Stop co-signing on being in the friend zone. And that way you don't have to wonder why you're always in the friend zone. You all let me know what you think about it. So I do have in my notes, I think that Lori needs to take Logan's advice, working on herself before she continues to date. I do agree, and I said that throughout my reviews. I think that she still comes off as overly aggressive, and there is a fine line between being overly aggressive and being assertive, and I think that's something that she has not necessarily mastered, right? When you're dating someone, you can be assertive and trying to get to know them to a degree, but you can also be observant to get that information as well. And it's the process of give and take. And I think when Lori comes across in her conversations, she's more of a getter, grabbing information versus allowing that person opportunity to give information. They ask for information, and it's a back and forth process, right? So I think that with her, she does have a lot of work. So let me look at my notes. And we're going to move on to Suzanne. Suzanne goes out again with Avery. So you remember she went out with Jeff last, and now she's back to Avery, which was her second date. We find out that Suzanne she kind of not really broke it off with Avery, kind of took a pause break, because she thought he was coming on too strong. She had to sort out her feelings, and she did that. And she found out she liked him a lot. And she told him specifically where she stood. And she thought maybe he was coming on too strong in the beginning. So it seems like now they've kind of regrouped and talked it out, and they're moving forward. So I say kudos to Suzanne for actually recognizing what she wants, being able to pump the brakes, but also coming back full circle if she thinks that she's now better suited to move forward. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. If you think someone is moving too fast, let them know, right? We're moving on to Nate. So we see with Nate, he's following up on his date, the one that he wants to pick. And it's going to be Michelle. Michelle was the last person he dated. And we find out he didn't go for Lisa because remember, Lisa had the adult children living at home. And I told you all before in my review, I didn't think that was going to work out in her favor, especially as it relates to him, because they had a different philosophy on children, adult children living at home. And he told her his experience with his daughter and pretty much pushing her out of the nest. And Lisa hasn't necessarily taken that stance with her children. So that was a red flag for him. He decided to go with Michelle. They go out on a second date. And that date is interesting. That date with Michelle is interesting because Nate kind of goes through the process of letting her know he has to have everything in place. They kind of look at some hypothetical scenarios, like if we're going out on a date and then I'm over your house and I leave some clothes out on the bed and don't put them up, would that bother you? And Nate was like, yes, we have to clean up everything before we leave. And I'm like, yeah, Nate, that's not realistic. Okay. I get being kind of a neat freak, but I think that that's going to turn away people because they feel like they always have to have everything in place around you. She says, so that means you kind of have OCD. And he was like, no, I don't. And I'm like, Nate, you do have OCD. You are the quintessential example of what OCD is. I mean, seriously. And he just pretty much denies it. He just says he has to have everything clean before he leaves. So I think they kind of took her aback. You could tell on the date when he said that, she was like, I don't know if this is going to work. And I don't necessarily blame her because I feel like with Nate, his OCD behavior is going to actually come across really as a put off. So my video got disconnected. But what I was saying was with Michelle, she pretty much, from my looking at her and her response with Nate, I don't think she's feeling Nate with his OCD behavior. He's not willing to admit that he has OCD, and I think that's going to be a problem for him moving forward. I think that I do have in my notes that he has such a thing with his order that he doesn't recognize how that is preventing him from getting to know other people, right? And if you're in a relationship with someone, you have to let them in literally and figuratively. And that means letting them into your space, right? If you are a super neat person, you have to recognize that person may not prioritize putting every single thing back in order after they finish versus coming back later and straightening up. And I think that's going to hinder him moving forward in his dating process. All right, Lori, I want to talk about next. So there's a segment they do in the middle of the episode called Dating Future. And this is where they ask the later daters where they see themselves in 5 years. So Lori says that she wants to be married in the next 2 years. And I said to myself, to be honest with you, if Lori wants to be married in the next 2 years, she's got a lot of work to do. Based upon looking at her in these episodes, she has to be more feminine, less assertive, less aggressive, being able to let people talk, not being overly bringing more masculine energy to the relationship, or the dating process, not relationship. I don't think she sees herself in that regard, how she comes across to people, even though her children have told her that. Logan, the dating coach, has told her that. I think she still thinks that what she's doing is working for her, and it's not. I do have that you have to be willing to work through the issues you have that may be holding you back from meeting your person. And that's a lot to do if she wants to be married in 2 years. She has to be moving quicker than what she is and being able to self-correct quicker than what she's able to do. And some people are engaged for at least a year before they get married. So I'm thinking if she wants to do all this in 2 years, I don't see how that's going to be possible with where she is now. She has a lot of work to do. And I really hope the best for her, because I think truly in her heart, she wants to have that relationship, but she has to be willing to put in the work. And I don't know if she has been receptive and implemented the advice that dating coach Logan was giving her. Nate says that he wants to meet someone soon and not be single for a longer period of time. Suzanne says the same thing, and says that marriage could be a part of her future as well, potentially. So we do find that all of them pretty much are saying that they want to have relationships in the future for the long term. So we look at Pam. Pam is the later dater, I think, that was 70 years old. She went on a date with Dwight. They didn't necessarily mesh well as far as a dating relationship, but she was able to kind of work with him on some of his tours. And she seems like a fun person overall. I think Pam and Anise probably were the people that learned the most from this whole dating process. And she was willing to put herself out there. Anise was 62. Pam is 70. They're willing to at least learn about what they should do if they want to be in a dating relationship with someone. And I think that's really commendable for them, because I don't necessarily think that everyone is going to do that. Some people in their 30s and 40s are not willing to do some of the things that they're doing. So I commend anyone that's willing to put themselves out there, learn more about themselves, and learn and grow in the process of dating. So we see that Pam and Dwight are doing the bus tour thing. It's really cute. They're giving a tour around the city. And I think that sometimes in the dating process, you can get overwhelmed thinking it may not happen for you, and people are only out there for themselves. But Pam says that she learned that there are genuinely some good people in the world, and that it's possible, even if you don't find your person, to meet people that you necessarily wouldn't have met and to hang out with them and become friends. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. You're not necessarily going to be able to meet your person on every single date. You only really meet one person one date, or just one experience where you meet that person, right? But to discount the fact that you're actually out meeting people, communicating, socializing, learning about new experiences, you can't discredit that in the process of dating. Okay? So dating doesn't have to be an overly overwhelming negative experience. There are parts of it that actually can be enjoyable, right? So there's a 2-month later segment that they have next. And this kind of closes out the whole series. With Suzanne, we find out that Suzanne and Avery are still dating. They look happy. Avery does ask her if she thought about getting married again. She says she's open, but I don't think she's necessarily sold on the idea. I think he is, so I feel like it's still kind of that thing of he may be moving faster than she is. But at least they brought up the topic, they talked about it, and they have a conversation going about that specific thing. So I think it's where the elephant is not in the room and they're not addressing it. So I think open and honest communication is important in the dating process. With Nate, we find out after the second date with Michelle, he crossed her off the list because he thinks she could be messy and clutter. And I'm thinking, well, what can you be, Nate? Can you be overly neat and rigid? So I'm trying to figure out what he is going to do as it relates to moving forward, because you're not going to find someone that's going to be overly neat, put everything away, and just, line up exactly how you want them. That's just not how life works. I feel like Nate is a bit too picky, and he's not going to find someone that's going to be super duper neat and precise like him. So I don't know. I think he has a little bit of, I guess, I wouldn't say maturing, but a little bit more of learning and growing in the dating process. He did reach out to Lisa. She said she was already in a relationship, and I was like, dang, Lisa moved quick. So in reality, I don't think that's not a bad thing, because people are not going to necessarily wait around for you. And that's one thing I will say. If you're interested in getting to know someone, or at least going out on a second date with them, you need to move quicker. If that's something you're interested in doing, don't wait. Because at the end of the day, that person's not necessarily waiting. And if they find someone they're interested in, hey, where does that put you, right? So I think it's all about timing. Anise, we find out her and Willie were still dating. and they went out with on another date with white outfits. I love those white outfits. I thought they looked so like sophisticated. I really love that whole look. Anise says she met Willie's mom and they took selfies together. I thought that was super cute as well. They did a toast to the future. And Logan wraps up the series by saying that searching for love is universal, and I agree. Also, that you have to be open to learning more about yourself in the process. I agree with that, which is what I talked about in episode 7, the review of that episode. And that there are people out there looking for love just like you. So don't look at it from the lens of, you're feeling alone and you're going about this where there are not other people that are in the same position as you. There are people that are looking for love just like you. So you can definitely find your person. Don't let the dating process intimidate you. And I think that with all of this being said, I am glad that I was able to review this series because it did show me that dating is not necessarily something that only happens for people when they get to a certain age, 20s, 30s, 40s. There are people that are still looking for love in relationships that have been married multiple times and they're still trying to figure it out. And I think it's okay to look at yourself as someone that's still looking for love no matter what age you are. And I think everyone deserves to be in a healthy and loving relationship. And there's nothing wrong with stating that goal and moving forward, going into the world and seeing what can happen, right? Pam does say that she learned that she needed to be in community, and I agree. I think that that's another thing too with the whole dating process is the fact that don't be afraid to go at it with others. You don't have to do things alone. There are support groups, there are places and people you can actually seek that can mentor you. There are coaches, all of those things, because at the end of the day, would it behoove you to try to go at it alone when there are people that can help you? There are people that can support you. And I think that's another thing that I learned in watching this series is each one of these daters had like a cheerleader, a supporter, whether it be their children, whether it be the dating coach, or I think Pam had her granddaughter. So there were people that were supporting them and giving them feedback along the way. And I think that's a great thing, right? People can definitely help you with your goals and help you achieve the things that you want, but you have to be transparent and don't feel ashamed because you're 65 and you're still trying to date. There's nothing wrong with that. If that's the goal that you have and you want companionship, there's nothing wrong with stating that goal and moving forward and walking in that goal, right? So everybody did say they were happy they did the process. Anise says that one little aha moment changes your life forever, and I do agree. I think she learned the most, probably in addition to Pam, about the whole dating process and life in general. And I think that in addition to that, if you allow God to show you specifically what may be holding you back, He can definitely utilize other people in your life to help show you those things that you may not be recognizing about yourself that may be holding you back, right? I think that the sooner that you recognize those areas that you need to work on that may be particular weaknesses for you, the better, because you can get to your goal quicker. And I think the older you are, you need to look at it from the lens of, I've lived more of my life than what I have in front of me. So I need to be able to move forward in my goals and just stand in those things and be okay with moving forward. So I would say at the end of the day, if you are someone that's dating, no matter what your age, I would suggest that you watch the Later Dater series. See what you can learn from the series, who you can identify with, and also comment below. Let me know what you think about these episodes. If you go back and watch an episode or two and watch my review, let me know what you think about it. I would be interested to know how you all are navigating the dating process, what you think about the Later Dater series, and if you want me to do any of these additional reviews for other shows in the future. I do want to thank you for letting me review the Later Daters and sticking with me if you have stuck with me throughout the process. And I encourage you, if you have not done so, to like this post, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and until next time.